watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
And right now on Fox 35 News Plus, it has been the big story of the day, and this is our first look inside Alligator Alcatraz, the newest immigration detention center here in Florida, set to open up very soon. The governor said it would happen as soon as the president left, and he did leave shortly after noon today. Thank you for joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus. Manny Martinez here with you throughout the week. Garrett Weimer is enjoying some time off. So why don't we get to what is our usual at this hour that we started off with? That is our top 4 at 4 with a little bit of a twist today. And that is going to be our top 4 at 4 because it's 4 different angles of this big story that we have been covering the entire morning and now afternoon if you've been with us. So here to talk about our top 4 at 4 is Fox 35's LuAnne Sorrell. Hi, LuAnne. How are you?
Hi, Manny. I'm well. How are you? You've been busy today.
We have. You know what? I don't think Garrett expected something like this happening today to give me a week.
You know he wishes he was here, right? He wants to be all over this story because it has gone national, international, actually. The president showing up this morning, he seemed very pleased with Alligator Alcatraz. We're going to show you some video of him touring that facility down in the Everglades. It's 39 square miles. It will ultimately house 5,000 illegal immigrants who are here in this country. So the president showed up today. He was walking around that facility with Governor Ron DeSantis and a bunch of other elected officials, getting the rundown on exactly what could happen. And yeah, it is now open. And we could see our first detainee brought into this facility as early as tomorrow, it sounds like, Manny.
Yeah, in fact, the governor said today that there's already a list of people that they have of people who will be going there. So let's listen to what the president had to say at today's introduction.
It's known as Alligator Alcatraz, which is very appropriate because I looked outside and that's not a place I want to go hiking anytime soon. But very soon this facility will house some of the most menacing migrants, some of the most vicious people on the planet. We're surrounded by miles of treacherous swampland, and the only way out is really deportation. And a lot of these people are self-deporting back to their country where they came from.
So yeah, this facility, as we said, could open as early as tomorrow, it sounds like. It's going to cost $450 million annually to run. And, but yeah, this is just, part of the president's agenda to get illegal immigrants out of the country. He also probably likes the name of this thing because he's been pushing to reopen Alcatraz. And now that hasn't happened yet, but now he has an Alligator Alcatraz. And it sounds like this may be the first of 2 in the state. And he also is pushing to get other ones open across the country.
And at 11 o'clock, we had Marie Ettinger live. She's out in Ochapi. And she noticed that even just feet from where she was standing outside the facility, there was a baby alligator.
Oh, yeah.
And so she was talking about how that's part of the reason as to why they chose the name, obviously, but also the location, LuAnne. It's 10 miles of Everglades in all directions here at this facility.
Have you ever been? Down Alligator Alley?
I've never been.
You need
I've
to
never
just
been.
drive. It goes from, Miami to like the Fort Myers area. This facility is an abandoned airport about 37 miles west of Miami. It's in the middle of nowhere. If you ever driven Tamiami Trail, hashtag Alligator Alley, it's nothing. It's desolate. And you see alligators all the time in those canals. That's where they're supposed to be. That's their natural habitat. So yeah, they really don't need to put up too many barriers like the president and the governor were saying. Nature is the barrier there. No one wants to get caught on the Everglades at night on foot.
No. And I wrote it down here because they also mentioned it in one of their graphics. It was 28,000 feet of barbed wire. Yeah, that's around the facility.
Around the airport?
Yeah. So,
well, they have that, and they have how many thousands of alligators and crocodiles and pythons out there as well as
there
a
it
deterrent.
Is. I found it there. Yeah, 28,000 feet of barbed wire.
Yeah. On it. That's a young mind right there.
Also, to the point of what the president said there at the very end, talking about self-deportations.
Yeah.
Kristi Noem, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, she was on this trip too. She was talking about how there have already been a number of self-deportations, not just in Florida, but nationwide.
Yeah, after the tour of the facility, they held a roundtable where it was Kristi Noem, James Uthmeier, the governor, the president, and a bunch of other elected officials. And the governor was saying, hey, look, people can self-deport and then they won't end up here. They can actually be brought to this facility, and before they get checked in, they can say, hey, I'll go home. Noem said they'll put them on a plane, take them back home. So they are encouraging people, you know, to self-deport. They say if you do that, you can eventually come back into the country. If you end up in Alligator Alcatraz, you can never come back. So that is the push by the president and Kristi Noem.
When I have gone to these other countries to negotiate security agreements and information sharing on criminals, who's coming and going into their countries, they report that hundreds of thousands have come home that weren't on our radar, that they are coming home on their own and self-deporting because they want the chance to be able to go back to America someday. So we believe it's over 1 million, possibly more than that. I'm asking all of those countries for their information on what they have of individuals that may have returned home, that they have, taking advantage of their programs to help them become a part of their civilization again too. So we know it's over 1 million, but we have to, I'm getting more information and that number will grow.
If they don't leave, they
So not only the 1 million self-deportations we learned today, the president also announced, and so did Stephen Miller, the fact that there wasn't a single illegal border crossing noted.
I did hear that.
Yes.
Even the president couldn't believe it.
You took the words right out of my mouth. The president said, surely there must have been at least one. So this is, yeah, it's all part of the immigration push here, and we know that it's gotten pushed back.
Definitely. I'm sure when you went to Marie earlier today, you saw all the protesters outside of Alligator Alcatraz. Hundreds of people showed up to protest this facility for several different reasons. You have the environmental groups who are worried that this facility is going to do damage to the Everglades out there, very natural habitat, really nothing around. And then you have the Native Americans who say this is our precious land. We don't want this here. And then some people say, you know, it's just inhumane to stick people in the middle of nowhere in these kind of FEMA tents. They said this is not how we should be treating any human, whether they're here in this country legally or not.
Now, LuAnne, we did interview Congressman Maxwell Frost, Democrat, represents Orlando. He has gone to visit these immigration detention sites, and he says that he's going to try and visit Alligator Alcatraz here soon. You'll hear his interview here coming up later in this hour. Okay. But one of the things that he mentioned that struck him when he saw these facilities was the condition. But on the other side, state officials, federal officials, they will say that here, you know, at Alligator Alcatraz, there is that 24/7 air conditioning, which you don't get at every single Florida prison. And that there also is access to legal help and even clergy. And even on that little board that they had behind the president, laundry is one of the things, you know.
Another big concern, Manny, is that we're now in hurricane season. So they say, well, what happens if you have 5,000 illegal immigrants in these tents and then a hurricane comes? I'm guessing they would probably have to be moved out of there. But that's not out of the realm of possibility since we're in July now. Right. And the hurricane season's starting to ramp up.
And I think at the very end of the event, it started to pour in that area. So that's that Florida weather around there. All right, moving on now to the fourth side of this is today was Donald Trump's first visit to Florida since the very beginning of May. And he and DeSantis were together. We know they butted heads over the last election. There's a lot of implications here about the two of them being together here side by side on this.
They were rivals there as they were both running for the Republican presidential nomination. It got a little ugly. There was a lot of name calling. And then today, though, it appears the bromance is reunited. And the president was even asked about his relationship with Governor Ron DeSantis, and he said, I would say it's a 10 out of 10. Our relationship is great.
I think it's a 10. Maybe 9-9, because there might be a couple of little wounds. So maybe it's 9-9. I think we have a 10. We get along great.
Well, the thing about it is, I endorsed him immediately in January 2024. I raised one of his PACs millions and millions of dollars, and obviously we saved him a lot of money in Florida because Florida was a deep red state. He didn't even have to do a rally in Florida, whereas 2016 and 20, this was like ground zero. And so we've been, really happy to do that. And then we've worked very well on this and other issues, with Florida. And you can call him at any time, and he wants to be helpful for governors. I mean, I can tell you that. We did Hurricane Helene last year. You didn't hear from the president at the time then. But with President Trump, we know immediately. You just make the phone call.
So bygones seem to be bygones.
Yeah, we'll see, though, because there's still another kink in this chain, though, Manny. Remember, the governor's seat is going to be up for election next year. It sounds like Ron DeSantis wants his wife Casey to run, but the president has already endorsed Congressman Byron Donalds. And so that could be an underlying little skiff too now.
And Byron Donalds and Governor DeSantis, we know that they have butted heads before. Also, there was the Speaker of the House, who has butted heads with the governor, Daniel Perez from South Florida, as well as Joe Gruters, a state senator from Sarasota, all there. But the governor did have people that are strongly by his side. One of them, the Director of Emergency Management, Kevin Guthrie. The other, James Uthmeier, the Attorney General.
Yeah, that are on DeSantis' side. But for the cameras, they look like they've made amends and they've made up, but we'll have to see how long this sticks. We know the president can sometimes turn a best friend into an enemy, like Elon Musk, overnight. So we'll see if the bromance continues for longer than a week or a month or a year.
That's right. So here, let's listen to what the president said about Uthmeier and the Attorney General here this morning.
In Florida, Attorney General James Uthmeier. Where is James? Where is he? You do a very good job. I hear good things. I hear good things about you from Ron, too. No, you really do. He's even a good-looking guy. That guy's got a future, huh? Good job, James. I hear you did really, really fantastic. Worked hard. You're like in the construction business for a few days, right? Huh? Congratulations. In Florida,
A lot of praise there.
A lot of praise, even saying he's a good-looking guy, LuAnne.
Yeah, he's got a handsome man there by his side, the governor does. But yeah, he got a lot of praise because he really fast-tracked this thing. This was kind of his pet project.
It was.
I think they opened it in 8 days.
8 days.
It took 8 days to get everything ready, and now we could have our first detainee there tonight or tomorrow.
All right, LuAnne, Sorrell, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you for joining us. That has been our top 4 at 4. Make sure to stay with us. We have more Fox 35 News Plus on the other side of this break.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back to Fox 35 News Plus on this Tuesday afternoon. It is a beautiful Tuesday afternoon as we look live over downtown Orlando. It is Manny Martinez here with you. Garrett has the week off, and right now it is time to get a check of our weather with Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Timothy John Springer. Hi, TJ.
I didn't get the full name. Look at that.
I told you I would remember it.
You know, I can't wait when someone like addresses me that way now, Manny. If someone's like, "Hey, Timothy John, how are you?" But you're right, though. It's actually pretty good out there right now. We've seen some showers and thunderstorms start to spark up, Manny, and we'll continue to see these kind of roll off to the northwest. Still kind of watching out for that erratic motion with the help of the sea breeze. But with this area of low pressure now developing out to our west, we're going to start to kind of see the wind kind of in that regard change just a bit in terms of the greater storm motion. But right now we're kind of seeing these lifting off to the north and northwest. But right now the heaviest of the rain really isn't around downtown Orlando. It's actually in Brevard County, some of Osceola County. With the help of the sea breeze moving inland, we can see some stronger storms, some rain around just really the west of Grand Falk area, hugging the I-95 corridor, I should say, with some stronger storms, some heavier rain on top of the Osceola-Brevard County line just to the west of I-95. And we can also see a few more downpours off to the north and east of Harmony right now. So if you're traveling on US 192, maybe heading up toward at least the direction of Orlando out of Brevard County, you may see a few raindrops hitting your windshield as well. We'll see more coverage as we head through the remainder of the evening as that sea breeze continues to make its trek inland from the coast. Now, the big picture on Fox 35 Storm Tracker radar, we can see kind of that swirl. A lot of moisture in the Gulf right now, and that's thanks to this area of low pressure aloft. We also have a cold front that is sliding to the south and east, and that same cold front is likely going to stall across the region later on this week. And as it does, that's when we could see between that boundary and this area of low pressure upstairs in the atmosphere, the formation of a new low that potentially has the chance to become tropical in nature. But either way, tropical, subtropical, we're still expecting more rain here across Central Florida. It looks pretty good though right now from our iDrive cam as we're glancing out over some of the tourist districts. We can see Icon Park off in the foreground and also the Universal Orlando skyline as well. Now back to the tropics, we can see we have a 30% chance of development. This has been the change today. And as we're getting closer to the weekend, that's when we're thinking we could see this low pressure form. So I think that's kind of why the National Hurricane Center has bumped this up another 10% from the 20% that we had yesterday. We're expecting tropical downpours across the Sunshine State and right here in the heart of Florida as this boundary stalls and we see that upper level low driving that formation, which could potentially become a tropical depression. You can see chances now. If you were watching us yesterday, this has gone up a bit. We were thinking around 20 to 30%. Now they're around 40 to even 50% off the Florida coast, the Georgia coast, off the southeastern Atlantic seaboard. So that's what we'll be watching as we head through Saturday into Sunday. And if that just hangs out there, we can see those wraparound bands of rain and some embedded thunder as we head through our holiday weekend. Now, it does look like we'll see this potentially lingering into Monday, area of low pressure or tropical depression. Either way, a storm system off the coast of Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas heading into early next week. But then it looks to fade away as we head through the first half of the week, and we start to see some improving conditions, more of a typical pattern, I think, later next week. Now, this is the area to watch. You can see there is warm water here between the Gulf and the southwestern Atlantic, water temperatures in the low to mid 80s. So that's certainly conducive for tropical development. But, you know, the setup in terms of the greater threat isn't all that impressive. But we do have a boundary, and usually with upper level support, we can often see storm systems form. And in this case, it might be able to organize enough to become tropical in nature. Now, timeline-wise, more widespread rain is on tap midweek into the holiday weekend. And if a tropical depression were to form, it would likely be this weekend. So if you're traveling home, maybe you're here for a long weekend, or you're here for the week for vacation, certainly want to be keeping tabs on our latest forecast and your flight information, because there could be delays if this thing is hugging the Atlantic seaboard into early next week. Now, in terms of rain, you can see a widespread few inches of rain, but notice off closer to I-75 and toward the Gulf Coast, closer to Tampa, and even in some of our Fox 51 locales heading in that general direction, there could be amounts that close in on maybe 5 inches, maybe even closer to 6. So flooding is going to be a concern in those areas that really deal with the heavier rainfall. Now, we do have impact days because of the tropical downpours, and it looks like there could be a couple of stronger storms, possibly maybe a random severe thunderstorm warning or two, but thankfully we're not under any sort of widespread risk from the Storm Prediction Center for any sort of severe weather. But downpours for sure, lightning, and some flooding is a possibility. Now, if any storm were to collide, I don't think we have a ton of upper level support, but sometimes that happens, especially with the daily sea breezes too. So of course we'll be always monitoring that threat of maybe a spin up tornado, but chances for that are really, really low. Good news in that regard, but certainly going to be wet and unsettled as we head through the next couple days. Lows tonight, low to mid 70s. A little cooler, just like this morning. It didn't feel quite as bad. Temperatures have been a little cooler because of the clouds and the moisture. And tomorrow, I think we might not even be able to get out of the 80s, which is nice to be a touch below normal. Mid to upper 80s all across the board as we head through our Wednesday afternoon with those widespread showers and thunderstorms developing. And we'll see that here on our Fox weather model. Futurecast shows these not only today, some hit or miss showers and thunderstorms. Not as much coverage today, kind of like what we have out there now, hit or miss in nature. But as we head into our Wednesday afternoon, we start to see more showers and thunderstorms developing, I'm thinking. So even tomorrow isn't a washout, but certainly more numerous showers and thunderstorms as we head throughout our Wednesday, latter half of the day into our Wednesday evening. And then as we head into our July 4th Eve, our Thursday, same story, widespread showers and thunderstorms as we head throughout the day. I think Thursday coverage could be the greatest out of all the days, as the area of low pressure in the upper levels of the atmosphere is sitting really close to us here in Central Florida. So I know a lot going on, a lot of events. A lot of you may be getting out to the theme parks. So that's something you'll have to watch for on July 4th itself. We could be dealing with showers and thunderstorms that may even cancel some fireworks plans. So that's something you'll have to monitor as well. I'm sure communities here around the area too. Now, our Fox 35 Storm Team 70 forecast does show improvement little by little. Rain chances slowly dropping down as we head through early next week, but still dealing with high rain chances through the holiday weekend, through Saturday and Sunday. And now with lesser rain chances, Manny, I'm trying to find the silver lining. It's a little cooler with all the rain, but temperatures start to go back up early next week. We're back in the 90s by Monday.
All right, thank you, TJ. TJ, you're a busy man, aren't you? You're doing all the shows tonight?
All the shows tonight, so I'll be bouncing around all over the place today.
That means you'll see him at 5 here in just a little bit. 6, 8, 10, and 11. Thank you, TJ, for this update. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Manny. I appreciate you.
All right, and we will move right along. More Fox 35 News Plus returns just after this. We'll leave you here with a live look at Daytona Beach, looking beautiful out there on a Tuesday.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Thank you for joining us here on Fox Local and on YouTube. Manny Martinez here for Garrett Weimer, who is enjoying some time off. We are going to be staying on top of our big story today here statewide in Florida, and that is President Trump visiting Alligator Alcatraz, the newest immigration detention center down in Ochopee, Florida. And speaking of Ochopee, that is where we have Fox 35's Marie Ettinger. She has been there all day long. Marie, you left Lake Mary probably around 5 this morning to make sure you were there by the time the president arrived.
That is exactly right. It is far away.
Yeah, and you also mentioned it's in the middle of nowhere. That's why you're on your phone, because it's difficult to get a signal. Just what was the scene like, or what is the scene like now, and what was it like compared to when you first got there?
Sure, so I'll flip you around. Earlier in the day, I was not able to. I'm using a different system now, so I should be able to give you a better view of what we've got going on. So I'm standing outside the entrance. Oops, sorry for flipping you too quickly. I know that's probably a little disorienting. So you can see the side there, Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport. The entrance in has been pretty busy, which is kind of astounding. Like, the road in has just been so busy all day. Walking over, but making sure to stay out of the road. So you can see people going in now. All that's left outside here are a few folks with the Army National Guard. There had been tons of deputies from the Collier County Sheriff's Office here earlier today. They cleared out when the protesters did. So when I was talking with you earlier, Manny, I was standing right across the street there in that large portion of the road that's pretty cleared up. You can see there are not protesters. It started pouring rain, a pretty gnarly thunderstorm earlier in the day. So those protesters wound up having to clear out, but there they were. They had two main concerns, I would say. I talked with a bunch of them. So the main categories would be they were worried about the potential for human rights violations and a lack of due process at this facility. And they were worried about environmental impacts to the Everglades. The governor and the president, as they were touring today, addressed both of those concerns. So as for the lack of, or the potential for the lack of due process that protesters were saying they were worried about, the governor says that he does have legal teams on site, and he's working to deputize people with the Army National Guard to serve as immigration judges so that people could be funneled in and out faster, as in they would have access to legal representation here on site. And then they would just be, they're hoping to get people through in just a couple of days, is what he was saying. So he still wants everything fast tracked, but he wants to make sure that people do at least have access to legal counsel. As for the impact to the Everglades, the governor says that he is making sure that everything is just on site here, that he's not adding anything extra, not expanding past the land that's already been built. He's using the facilities that have already been built and just ramping them up. The president did wind up asking the governor today whether he thinks that they could expand, and the governor kind of gently shut that down. Even still, I was talking about the traffic, and behind me, you'll see another truck coming out now. That's a concern for people who are worried about environmental impacts. The amount of traffic coming in, it would increase emissions, it would increase roadkill along these roads where there are a lot of animal crossings, including panthers, alligators. We've seen some turtles who were killed on the road today. It also increases noise pollution and light pollution. This is a dark sky area, meaning that people can gaze up into the stars easily. It's a really great place for astronomers to come out. And so the noise pollution and light pollution could disrupt that. It would also be disruptive to animal circadian rhythms. So even somebody I was talking with today who was in support of this facility had this gigantic Trump flag and said he's focusing on the way. Even he said he's worried about environmental impacts, and he believes that there's no possible way for it to be avoided, and there will be some impact. So he's hoping that this facility is only open in the short term. The governor says that's his goal.
So Marie, how do you get 2.5 minutes to put this together in a story here for 5 o'clock? How do you manage to get all of that in there? What do you have for us coming up here in just a half hour?
I did not manage to fit everything into 5. I divided it up, so you're going to have to watch a lot of Fox 35 today. At 5 o'clock,
That's a good tease.
About the protesters. 5 o'clock story will be largely about the protesters and their concerns over due process, the governor and the president's responses to those concerns. 6 o'clock is going to deal a lot more with the environmental impacts and those concerns. 8 will go over those same things. At 10 o'clock, I'll be doing a wider ranging story talking about just how quickly this facility opened and how that actually managed to occur. This was 8 days in between when FDEM sent a letter to Miami-Dade's mayor saying they wanted to appropriate the facility and opening day, which is today. So that's incredibly fast. Typically, that's not how things within bureaucratic systems work. So I go over how that was able to occur and why it happened that way. And then at 11, you'll see another breakdown. So that's a lot of Fox 35 viewing. We also have a fantastic digital team working on these different versions of stories that you'll be able to see on fox35orlando.com.
All right, Marie, thank you. Hard at work all day today. I'm sure that it was also hot as all heck out there, too. So make sure that tonight you get a break, get some rest, and then we'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you, Marie. We will continue with Fox 35 News Plus right after this short break. We still have a lot left.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
And welcome back to Fox 35 News Plus on this Tuesday afternoon. It is our big story of the day, and that is the tour by President Donald Trump at Alligator Alcatraz, the detention facility, the immigration detention facility down in South Florida. So reaction has been pouring in here so far on both sides, supporters and those who do not agree with this move. And so we will bring in now for an interview Congressman Maxwell Frost, Democrat from Orlando. Congressman, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. I mean, you know, we're fighting this horrible, big, nasty bill up in D.C. And also, you know, just seeing those images you just put on screen of what looks like an internment camp where humans are going to be caged, most of whom who've not been found guilty of a crime or even charged with a crime, just people who've been living in this country alongside all of us, especially in the state of Florida. It's pretty depressing stuff.
So when you were watching live this morning or watching a replay, whichever it was, what was your initial reaction? Those are strong words, internment camp, that you used in your first answer.
Well, I don't know how else you would describe it when you look at those videos of what is a tent in the middle of the Everglades in the Florida hot blazing sun, cages where people will be put. And these are people who have not been found guilty of a crime. Maybe some of them have, but most of them haven't been, as we know, the statistics show. There'll be mothers, children, fathers, grandmas, most of whom who've lived in this country over a decade, have followed our laws, have paid more into the tax system than they've taken out, and are now being rounded up, kidnapped from our communities, and thrown into these cages you're seeing. I mean, just look at those images. And people should know who's setting this up. The state is doing it, but the Florida Office of Emergency Management is the one that operated and set this up. These are the people who are in charge when we have a hurricane come. They're using their money and expenses to do this instead of making sure we're safe, while at the same time Donald Trump fired a ton of scientists, meteorologists, and important folks at the National Weather Service, Hurricane Center, and NOAA. And we're looking like we're going to have a tough hurricane season. Hopefully they're wrong about that. And so people have to see that they're using our taxpayer money for politics. I've been traveling the country and then traveling the state, and I've heard from people who voted for Donald Trump who said, look, yes, I wanted a secure border. Yes, I want to make sure our laws are followed, but I didn't think they'd be pulling up to Home Depots, elementary schools, churches, rounding people up who I've lived with, for most of my life, and throwing them in these cages and then just sending them to random countries. And that's what's going on right now.
So, Congressman, you brought up the point of money, and the argument from the governor and federal officials is that this move is cost effective. From what I've read, they estimate it'll be $450 million per year, $245 per bed per day, and they say that they can get reimbursed from the federal government.
Yeah, keyword can. Will they? Who knows? We'll have to see exactly what happens. But I want to be clear. That number that they give you, over $400 million being set on a tent internment camp for immigrants in the middle of the Everglades, it's going to be a lot more than that. The first tropical storm, the first major rainstorm in that swamp will probably drastically decimate a lot of those tents, put the lives of the immigrants and the staff at risk. It's going to cost a lot more than what they're saying it is. The numbers they're giving you they're giving you the numbers of what it'll cost if nothing bad happens weather-wise. But we all know in the state of Florida that we have increasingly terrible weather in the state, weather tragedies, hurricanes included, and that's the Everglades. It's the swampiest part of our entire state, and so it's going to be a higher price tag than that.
Do you plan on going for a visit here at this newest facility?
My goal is to visit the facility. I planned on sending a letter to the governor of the state this week to get a tour to check it out. But I'm up here in DC voting against this evil bill for billionaires. And so hopefully in the coming weeks, I'll be able to go and see it in person.
We'll get to that spending bill in just another question here. But first, before we move on from the ICE and immigration detention centers, I know it's been a concern of yours, the humanitarian aspect of what's happening inside. And since 2025, 5 out of the 10 people here that are in ICE custody or that have died in ICE custody, 5 of the 10 here in Florida. What kind of concern do you have for this latest facility in Alligator Alcatraz?
All of these ICE detention centers in the state of Florida have abhorrent conditions. And I'm not just saying this because I read it somewhere. I went to one. I went to Baker. It's a facility that doesn't get a ton of news, but it's in Stark, Florida. I went there about a year and a half ago, unannounced, just showed up. They let me in. Why'd they let me in? Because it's in the law. Members of Congress have to be let in to ICE detention facilities to conduct oversight. And as a member of the oversight committee, it's part of my job. So they let me into this facility. I spent about 2 hours in it. And I'll tell you, this is a facility that's actually a building with AC and everything, and the conditions were horrible. I was talking with immigrants in there who said, I haven't been convicted of a crime. I've been here for almost a year. I rather now fend for my life on the streets of Haiti or whatever country they had come from a long time ago instead of being in these horrible conditions. So I can tell you that if the conditions are horrible in a building, imagine what it'll be in a tent city in the middle of the Everglades. That's why so many people have died in these Florida detainment facilities. And everyone should be very concerned about it. These are our neighbors. These are people who live here. Most of them have not been charged, convicted, or accused of a crime. And that's why I'm speaking out against it. Look, I'm Cuban. My mom came here from Cuba in the late 1960s during the freedom flights. My mom came here as a refugee. My mom came here because this country, part of what makes America exceptional is that we allow people to come to our borders to claim asylum, to work to claim asylum, and we will hear them out. And this administration has completely canceled the legal right to claim asylum at the border. And not just that, but Donald Trump, the interesting thing is this, Donald Trump ran on deporting undocumented people to have less undocumented people in the country. But you want to know the interesting thing is Donald Trump is actually creating more undocumented people. How? Well, he's actually ripping away legal status from people who did it the right way. They're really showing their hand because they ran on saying, well, if you come the right way, it's all good. But they're ripping away TPS, temporary protective status, for hundreds of thousands of Haitians, people from Venezuela here in Florida. They're ripping away the parole program, which impacts people from Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Haiti as well. So we have hundreds of thousands of Floridians with legal status, people who did it the right way, having it ripped away from them. They get a letter. It happened to some of my family members. They get a letter that says your status is no longer valid in the United States of America. Self-deport immediately. I mean, so they're literally making more undocumented people, people who did it the right way. This is more than just about legalese or doing it through the system. And I hate to say it, but people like Charlie Kirk, people like Stephen Miller in the White House, they say what they want very blatantly. They don't want this many Latinos, Haitians, and Black people in the country. And all you got to do is look at their social media feed over the last few weeks to see that. So unfortunately, a huge part of this whole immigration mass deportation campaign is actually a really racist campaign to try to rid the country of the diversity that we have.
And turning now to the big, beautiful bill, the spending bill, that's the name that the president has given it, the nickname at least. It passed in the Senate today, 51-50. The vice president passed the tie-breaking votes. That tells you, in a chamber where Republicans have the majority, that it was contentious, and it's likely to be contentious even if as it returns to the House, perhaps for a vote tomorrow. So it'll be a busy day for you. Your thoughts on the advancement of that bill?
This is a horrible and very unpopular piece of legislation, and I want to make sure people know what it is. He's calling it the big, beautiful bill. It is big, but it's not beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful if you're a billionaire or you own a mega corporation. But if you're a working person in this country, if you're a poor person in this country, if you're a small business owner in this country, it isn't anything but beautiful for you. Let's talk about the facts. Number one, it's going to eliminate healthcare for 17 million Americans by making drastic cuts to Medicaid. If you know someone who currently has healthcare because of Medicaid, they could be drastically impacted by this. It's also drastically impacting the Affordable Care Act, which will add an additional few million people who will lose their health care as well. It's going to rip away nutritional assistance from millions of Americans. We're talking about SNAP and WIC, the nation's premier anti-hunger program to help ensure that if people are having trouble, make ends meet, that we help them to feed themselves and their families. They're going to rip that away from millions of Americans. There's also another provision they're taking out that's going to rip away the grant program that allows school districts to get free lunch to all students in the school district. We know that when students have a full belly, they're going to perform better in school. And actually, if you have a child in Orange County Public Schools, guess what? Just about a year and a half ago, Orange County Public Schools made the announcement that every single kid in the public school system would receive free breakfast and lunch when they're at school, an amazing program. This bill will rip away the grant program that made that possible. Not only that, this bill is also going to raise energy costs and utility costs by hundreds of dollars for Americans across the entire country. So it's going to raise costs. It's going to take away programs from working people. And you might be asking yourself, why are they doing this? Is it just to like save money? No. It's not to just save money. It's to give billionaires and mega corporations the largest tax break and tax giveaway that we've ever seen in this country. It's actually the largest transfer of wealth from the poor and the working class to the wealthy in the modern history of our nation. It's going to add $4 to $5 billion to our nation's deficit. So if you care about the deficit, this is horrible for the deficit. And on top of that, I want to make sure I dispel with some misinformation, if you'll indulge me for a minute, because as I've spoken with some people about the bill, sometimes they'll say, well, I heard that they're going to handle the taxation on Social Security. That is a lie. It's not in this bill at all. It's not even in the bill. So if you ever hear that this deals with taxation on Social Security, complete lie, not in the bill. You can look it up. The second thing people bring up to me is, well, it has no tax on tips. Well, if you look at the way it's written out, there's a million exemptions in it for the no tax on tips. And actually, the no tax on tips they're putting in is mainly going to help big restaurants, not the tipped workers. And if you've ever been a tipped worker where you get tipped out, which means there's a pool and then the restaurant gives you the tip, most of these tips in on credit cards, you're actually not going to see the kind of savings that you think you're going to see. Most tip workers are actually not really going to benefit from this at all. They put these things in here and really blatantly lied about some of these things because they know that when people see the facts of the bill, they're going to hate it and it's going to be very unpopular. This is going to make the wealth inequality in this country worse, putting more resources and money in the pockets of the billionaires and mega corporations and less for working families. It's a horrible bill. I actually had a bunch of events planned in Orlando this week. I canceled all of them. I took a flight here very early this morning. I'm getting right after this. I'm going to go debate this bill. I'm going to do everything I can to stop it, to delay it, to make sure people know how horrible it is for this nation. And I'm going to take it till the end. We're going to fight this thing.
Thank you, Congressman Maxwell Frost, Democrat here from Orlando. It is certainly a busy night tonight and a busy day tomorrow for everyone on Capitol Hill. We thank you for taking the time with us out of your schedule here to join us here on Fox 35 News Plus. We will be back with much more Fox 35 News Plus right after this short break. We will We want to come back here to some breaking news here on Fox 35 News Plus, and this is that the jury has reached a partial verdict in the trial, the federal trial against Sean Diddy Combs, the famous rapper. He faces 5 charges here. The charges against him of racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, transportation to engage in prostitution, sex trafficking by force again, and that prostitution charge again. So we don't yet know what the verdict has been, but that is Fox News is reporting. This is live outside the Manhattan Federal Court right now. You'll see all of the microphones that are set up here on screen left. They are just waiting for the prosecution and defense team to walk out, perhaps give us some of their thoughts. But Fox News now reporting that Diddy's family has returned to the courtroom to learn of that verdict. In the meantime, we are going to get back to what we have slated for you here to finish off our hour, and that is a conversation with Claire Healy of the Miami Herald. She has been reporting on immigration facilities since for some time here for the Miami Herald, and she gave us an interview earlier this afternoon, and here now is part of that you would have seen on Florida Live.
To his death. We do have a kind of rough timeline of his time in detention. So Isidro Perez was arrested on June 5th. He was brought to Chrome Detention Center, which is a detention center here in Miami. He was arrested outside of a community center in Key Largo. He is or was 75, and he was there. They do a general intake when you come into these facilities, and so during the intake, we know that they found several health issues. And so on June 17th, he was sent to the hospital. He was exhibiting a syndrome of that can lead to a heart attack. So he had chest pains, and he was in that hospital for about a week. He was brought back to Chrome Detention Center on June 25th. The next day, he had chest pains, and he passed away. So we know that he died June 26th. The official cause of death is still under investigation, as I said.
So this is an area of focus for some people who oppose these immigration detention centers, and especially the latest ones here in Florida. And on the other side of some of these concerns here, when it comes to humanitarian issues and just how they will be housed, I was speaking with one of our reporters who is out there in Ochopee today about what Homeland Security and the federal and state officials are saying about these facilities, that in this case that there is, at Alligator Alcatraz at least, AC, constant air conditioning. They have legal services and clergy. But Claire, is that the case at all of these ICE facilities, at all of these detention centers?
It should be. You know, I mean, one thing I can say is we've been spending a lot of time looking into Chrome Detention Center, my colleagues and I, because right now there have been 10 deaths in ICE custody across the country in 2025, and 5 of them have been in Florida. 3 of those 5 have been individuals who were previously detained at Chrome Detention Center. Some of them died in the hospital, for example. And I think the question here is whether or not they received the medicine that they needed before they passed away, or the medical attention. And so with the last 3 deaths in Florida, we don't have their medical history. We don't have the autopsies yet. So that includes Isidro Perez. He just passed away. But my colleague and I did a investigation into 2 deaths, one in February and January, both individuals who were detained at Chrome before they died. And we did find with one Ukrainian man that staff took 40 minutes to call 911 while he was having a stroke because they thought he was intoxicated. And so we spoke with experts who said, you know, every minute counts when you're having a stroke, and raised some questions about that. And then with the second man, we found in his autopsy listed that he had died of complications of schizoaffective disorder. And again, experts raised questions to us about that and said that is not an adequate description of a cause of death, as you cannot die from schizophrenia specifically. And they raised questions about drugs in his system and wanted to know more. So there are open questions about what treatment these people are receiving before they die.
And the answers to those questions, how difficult has it been to try and get them? How much digging do you and fellow reporters have to do to get to the bottom of that story?
You know, we want a full picture. We want as many documents as we possibly can, and we often do not have, unless we can have via the family as reporters, we don't have the full medical histories often from the hospitals, but we do have their autopsies and the death investigations, death reports. And those can give us a kind of fair picture of what happened, different conditions that they may have had. And we do know that, as I said, they have these intakes and medical evaluations when they're sent to Chrome, for example. Chrome has an in-house medical unit. And for those more serious cases, they're sent to the hospital. So one thing I will mention is Chrome specifically, there have been reports of overcrowding since February. We've been speaking with detainees since earlier this year who said they've been sleeping on the floor in crowded rooms, in unsanitary conditions. And we are hearing those reports again now. So I spoke with the family of Isidro Perez, and they said before he passed away, when he got to Chrome, he said it was overcrowded and he was sleeping on the floor. So this is something we've been repeatedly hearing about the housing conditions at Chrome.
And we want to get back to the breaking news here as we finish off our hour, and that is that a jury has has delivered a partial verdict in the Diddy trial. He faces 5 counts against him, including racketeering and prostitution. And we saw moments ago that his family has walked back into the courtroom. We don't yet know what it is that the jury has decided, and we don't know on how many counts they have made their decision. We are waiting outside the courthouse there to get an answer. This is a federal courthouse. This is in Manhattan. You see just a number of people that are out there waiting to listen to what it is that the jury has decided. And you'll see that it is a rainy day in New York, and you'll see the number of tripods that are there, meaning that there are a lot of cameras outside. This is a federal court case, which means that there aren't cameras allowed inside. But again, a partial verdict in the Diddy trial. He does face 5 federal counts. We'll see what it is, and we will monitor that and break in with any news on Fox 35 News at 5. But we want to thank you for joining us here on Fox Local and YouTube for Fox 35 News Plus as we lead you into Fox 35 News at 5. It has been a busy day. If you've been with us from the very beginning at 11 o'clock, we certainly appreciate that. But why don't we give you a look at the studio? Marlisa Goldsmith, LuAnne, Sorrell, they are getting ready for the show.
Right now on Fox 35 News at 5. Caught on camera, thieves ransacking a fireworks tent. Not once, but twice in 2 different locations over 2 days.
We're talking about real quick